it could be 15 years later. So.
You have a question as well. And please identify yourself for our...
Sure. First of all, thank you all for coming. My name is Farah, and I'm a communication student here in AUI. Well, I want to focus on a point that as a communication student, it's very important to focus on how we convey the message. We can deny the fact that here in Morocco there are a lot of organizations that stand for women, either violence, either single moms, either a lot of issues like that. But then whenever there's an issue or there's something happening here in Morocco, we always say that this issue was not talked about, or this issue was not introduced to the world, or nobody talked about this. So what I want to know is, what do you think is the main problem for these organizations, or what made them not do their work, or what went wrong with them, and what is different for Masaktash or Sbe'esotk, and what do they do right in these situations?
I don't want to say that some of us do right and some others do wrong. We all try to do our best, but we don't master the same tools. And I think it's more a question of tools. The generation of feminists who came before us had to fight in a context where voices were completely silent, and women were, it was very difficult for them to speak. The problem of mère célibataire doesn't exist in Morocco. Prostitution doesn't exist in Morocco. That was the case 30 years ago. It's no longer the case. And we are coming to this situation today thanks to their work. So I think they did an extraordinary work on the ground. Today, we have a new generation who masters new tools. We have Twitters, we have the social networks who make it super easy for 12 kids to spread the word. And so it's just a question of tools. And we need to, and it's also sometimes journalists try to make difference between us and just say, oh, okay, the new generation, the old generation. But actually, it's just the same wave. Just the same way where, as Maria said earlier, nothing is granted. We will have to fight every day because we are women. It's in our DNA to wake up in the morning and just by picking up the clothes you will dress, you will choose for this day, or when you are in a street, we have every day with us this feeling that we are weak, that something can happen to us, that I won't wear this shirt or I won't wear this dress because this and this can happen to me. I can ask guys here, what do you think in the morning when you wake up and you are just trying to select your clothes? You just wear something depending on the weather, right? For us, it's not the same. We have to think about where we're going, who is going to be with us. For the makeup, should I put the lipstick, not put the lipstick, depending on the situation. It is something, in our daily life, it's a weight we will have to carry, and so we need to fight every day, basically. So we don't fight with the same tools. I think we have today access to some tools who make it way more easier for us to do things, to spread an idea, to help people talk. Thanks to your work, women can talk without being seen and preparing podcasts. On Twitter, you can be completely anonymous and just talk about something. So it's very easy. Today we have these tools. The generation of feminists before us had to open a real NGOs. Masaktash, we're not even an NGO. We have nothing. No paper. We're just tweeting. We're just we have no legal existence, and we exist.
Il faut savoir que vraiment Masaktash, c'est nous toutes quoi.
Masaktash is not just us, it's all of us, she says, really.
Mais je le dis, vraiment, je le pense.
I say this,
Saisissez-vous-en. Nous, on est parti vraiment dans une démarche complètement spontanée.
With this completely spontaneous movement that's been started,
Il a fallu peut-être qu'on rencontre Khadija.
we needed to meet Khadija.
C'est ça c'était un choix, c'était une décision à un moment donné.
It was
Au
a
début,
decision that we
Tu
made.
es là avec ton cœur,
Mhm.
mais après ça t'engage à quelque chose.
And once you met her, you get committed to doing something.
Et dans cet engagement, tu te rends compte que ça te transforme.
And because of this commitment, you realize that it's transforming you.
Personnellement, je m'étais jamais posé la question de qu'est-ce qu'une femme.
Before, I had never asked myself the question, what is a woman?
Pourquoi j'étais un être humain sur cette terre, je ne sentais aucune différence entre un homme et moi.
Because I was a human being on this earth. I didn't recognize any difference.
Et je devais me battre comme n'importe qui doit se battre dans sa vie.
And I was willing to fight just like anybody else has to fight in life.
Avec Khadija et tout ce qui a suivi,
And what happened after?
malheureusement, j'apprends ce qu'est être une femme.
I have learned what
Et
it is to be
malheureusement,
a
je l'apprends par toutes les oppressions que subissent les femmes.
And I've learned it, unfortunately, by all the oppression that women have to live.
Voilà.
بالنسبه لنا احنا في سمع صوتك يعني في مثل هذه الحالات يعني احنا كنلعبوا دور التوعيه.
We try to make people aware, that's our, mission in
Yeah.
some essence.
وكما قالوا الصديقات يعني يعني في هذا الموضوع هذا ماشي سهل يعني في كل القضايا خصك تدخل فيهم يعني ان ممكن ان الناس كيدخلوا مباشره ممكن بالدعم النفسي ممكن بال
There are different means, and I think you understand.
But everybody else.
No, because I'm facing why probably
You better.
I have to look at Nancy. The Nancy she understands a lot of her. Okay. Yes, and as you said, there are different means of making people aware of this problem, as these activists have said.
نعم كما قلت ان يعني كاين الناس كيدخلوا مباشره حنا بالنسبه لنا يعني ان مثلا اذا وقع مثل هذا الامر كيفاش ممكن انك تدخلي كيفاش ممكن انك
How will you interfere, in these cases?
هنا كيقتصر الدور ديالنا يعني في هذه المرحله او في المراحل يعني الجايه اللي كنخططوا ليها ان ممكن ان يكون عندنا مراسلات سمعي صوتك ان في كل مكان.
So you would like this, the next step you would like to do is to have reporters in different regions in Morocco?
نعم
In Morocco.
يعني في كل مكان مثلا عندنا مراسله اللي اي حاله عنف او مثلا مثل الحاله ديال خديجه انها تواصل مع الحاله مباشره.
That she would talk with the person herself who has taken assault.
وهنايا كيكون يعني حتى استخدام الاعلام البديل كما تكلمت عليه لان
Other media of communication like
لأن
Twitter.
الاعلام اللي موجود حاليا اعلام موجه يعني ممكن انه يشد قضيه ويرد هذاك الشخص هو الظالم ماشي هو المظلوم.
So we have to use other means of media instead of the official media, which turn the victim, which turn the oppressor.
We have another question.
We have a question.
But she asked early on too, so we need to make sure we get this question. Go ahead and then we'll ask a question.
First of all,
And tell us who you are.
sure. Thank you all for your presence and for your presentation today. It was very interesting, also because it's a very interesting topic that I carried into heart during my whole life, I would say, especially when I grew up, because I felt more oppression as I grew up. I'm sorry, I'm Yusra, and I'm a communication student here at the UI. And the question I have is about the status of men in these initiatives and their mobilization in these movements, because I feel like before even talking about the fact that we are equal, we need to have some feminine and women's solidarity, which will lack a lot in our country. I would say the first example that comes up to my mind is the fact that when we are harassed in the streets, the first thing is to see is how the women is dressed and how are they the ones appealing and asking for this harassment. So.
I'd like to take that on if it's okay with my colleagues here. So you asked a kind of a compound question there. So I'll start with the latter part of your question. So you talked about how women carry the weight of some of the crimes, let's call them what they are, crimes against women, of violence and harassment and otherwise. And I think that's just a tactic that's worked for centuries and millennials, and they just continue to use that. I lost my train of thought. But what was the last part you said?
They blame the woman for
On dressing, right? So as someone who wore the hijab for over 10 years of my life, I have faced, physical harassment, unwanted touching, in settings that, go from a market to the pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. So this is a first-hand experience. So, it's important to take down these completely useless and, baseless arguments. In countries where women cover themselves, there are skyrocketing statistics when it comes to harassment, big-based harassment. So, I think it's important to dismantle these arguments one by one, over and over again, and just, all of us, like Maria said, I think it's important for, this isn't just like a one organization that's centralized that should be, responsible and then held accountable. This is just a bunch of women, we're all women. Come on in, let's do this, it's not like, oh, how are you gonna be different? Maybe I'm not, I'm just a survivor. But you can also do the work. You have something to contribute, everybody does. It's our problem, all of us. It's society's problem. But when you talk about men and taking responsibility, being able to elevate women's voices, being able to push the narrative that women are trying to express and have been trying to express for so long, I think that's important work. It isn't about men representing women in this case. I think it's about men allowing and opening up and encouraging and being part of the conversation, supporting these initiatives and the women who are trying to convey certain messages. So, just kind of allowing for more representation and, encouraging and supporting.
Juste rapidement, souvent on entend qu'est-ce qu'elle est allée faire d'abord, quoi elle est habillée d'abord.
So we often hear, what was she doing there? Why was she dressing like that?
Parce que ça a toujours été elle qu'on a pointé du doigt. Et ce elle, il vient de très loin. Vraiment, il vient de très loin. À l'origine, les sociétés sont patriarcales. C'est juste que je vous dis vraiment des choses très bien.
Beginning, our societies are patriarchal.
Exactement. Et depuis les débuts, ça a été moi, homme fort, je vais aller à la chasse, toi, femme, faible, je reste là, je fais un bébé.
I'm going out hunting, and women, you stay here.
Et depuis le début, les choses se sont installées d'une certaine manière.
People got the situation got installed in our social life.
Et même quand les hommes ont fondé les cités, ils les ont fondées à leur image, selon leurs propres besoins.
And when men founded cities in their own image and according to their needs.
Et la femme était à l'intérieur, elle était dans des intérieurs, surtout dans la culture arabo-musulmane.
Women were in the interior.
Je ne connais pas d'autres cultures, donc je ne me prononce pas pour les autres cultures. Je ne les connais pas suffisamment. Et Alors, sauf que la société évolue. Aujourd'hui, la femme elle est dans l'espace public de la même manière que l'homme.
And society has evolved, and women are in public spaces in the same way that men are in public spaces.
Et les hommes se sentent agressés.
And the men feel like they're being attacked by the presence of women in public spaces.
Ils deviennent violents et méchants, et très très méchants.
And they become violent and evil, and very evil.
C'est leur territoire et ils veulent le défendre, tout
It's
simplement.
their territory, and they're defending their territory.
Dans les maisons,
In the houses,
les femmes continuent d'élever les enfants.
children continue to raise, women continue to raise children.
Et jusqu'à il n'y a pas longtemps, كنا كبرنا بحشومة.
Just until very recently, all of us have this shame.
كنا كبرنا خافي، خصك تكوني كتخافي، ما ديريش.
We were ashamed, don't do this. I should not be translating from Arabic.
C'est la transmission qui a été faite génération après génération, mère après mère, par rapport à comment on leur a dit qu'elles doivent être.
This is transmission that was done from generation to generation, from mothers teaching their daughters how they're supposed to be.
Aujourd'hui, on est consciente.
We're aware of this now.
Ce n'est pas notre destin.
It's not our destiny.
Qu'on est dans l'espace public de la même manière.
When we're in the public spaces in the same way.
On assume notre responsabilité dans la vie de la même manière.
We have to take responsibility for our lives in the same way.
Et nous n'avons pas à céder notre droit. Ce droit, on n'a pas à le céder. Donc transmettons autre chose.
We should not give away our rights.
Voilà, essayons de transmettre quelque chose de différent à nos copines, à nos mamans aussi. Ça leur fera beaucoup de bien.
And to our friends and to our moms also, that'll do them good.
Voilà.
So, Sofiane wants to respond before you get to ask your question.
وكإضافة يعني بالنسبة لي يعني أن حتى الإعلام كيلعب دور كبير يعني في يعني ترسيخ بعض الأفكار يعني مثلا إذا بقيتوا عاطين حتى واحد الحلقة من حلقات دوزين لما بغات تعالج.
So I mean, the media they try also, you know, to keep on continuing the same, you know, stereotypes about women.
واحد الحلقه من حلقات يعني كان دازت دوزين يعني فاش هضرات على العنف ضد المراه ورات المراه كيفاش تخطي اثار العنف يعني
Okay, one of the Moroccan programs it is called Sabahiyat, you know, the morning women, something like this, for women, how to cover for, you know, violence and bruises, you know, from violence.
يعني في الوقت اللي خاص يكون برامج لتوعية النساء مثلا في القانون الجديد او لا يعني كتلقى عكس داكشي كتلقى مثلا المسلسلات ما عندها حتى شي دور غير انها كترسخ ان المرأة خاصها تكون كتحب كذا يعني فقط الرومانسية هكا ما كاينش برامج ديال التوعية.
Raising the awareness of women about their, you know, rights and how to avoid violence and to fight and to speak up. So there are, you know, serials about romantic love. Probably are talking
والتعليم كذلك حتى هو يعني ما كتلقاش مثلا يعني في المنهج الدراسي حاجه متعلقه بحقوق المراه ولا كيفاش الراجل يحترم المراه ولا
also in the Moroccan curricula, you know, teaching girls and boys also how to
يحترم المراه
how to respect women and how women can ask, you know, for more rights.
بالنسبه لنا احترام المراه يعني في التعليم هو احترام الام والاخت فقط يعني اما الاخرين يعني ماشي صافي يعني الجنه تحت اقدام امهات صافي يعني كتبقى بالنسبه هذه هي المراه يعني دائما حتى الراجل فاش كيبغي يتزوج كيقلب غير على اللي كتشبه الام هذه
how to have respect for them. So we have a very famous, you know, saying which says that paradise is entered with the mom's, you know, feet. So, and even when a man wants to marry a woman, so he tries to find someone who is a good image of his mom.
We have two more questions, and I'm sorry, but they're both already assigned. So we'll start with you, and then we end with Noelia. You get the last word, Noelia.
Finally.
Yes. Identify yourself, please, for our panelists.
My name is Leila. I am a human resources student here. want to tell you about a time where I did a survey in high school about sexual harassment and catcalling. It was completely anonymous, so I got some pretty honest answers. And when I read the answers, they were terrifying. They were very, very worrying. All of them basically were blaming women and shaming women. And one of them even said that he will never stop sexually harassing women until he finds the woman of his dreams. As if that's the way he's gonna find the woman of his dreams. And there was this other time when we did a debate in school about women's rights. And
Where did you go to school?
I'm from Tetuan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. The debate was about women's rights. I was on the team for women's rights, and there was another team against women's rights. It's surprising that there is a team against women's rights in the first place, and it was composed of boys, just boys. And I heard some really disturbing stuff that day, like women deserve to be raped, and they have to stay inside, they can't go out, they can do that, they can do this. And like it's very terrifying to see these rotten mentalities. So my question is, how can we, what can we do as people to improve these mentalities, to change them, to get men involved and get men to encourage each other to be better?
Can we get the second question as a...
Yeah, Gordon, this is the second question, and we'll let you answer. That's a great idea.
Remember?
Okay, so I think a couple of people have touched. Sorry, I'm Noelia Santos. I teach filmmaking in the communication program here. I think Aida is your name. When you were talking about the story of having read through the report of the case and how she went to Khadija, right? What's her name? And it was touched on that she went to the police against her family's wishes. So I have a two-part question. Everything in the society that I understand about Moroccan society is about the family. You cannot really operate outside of, it takes enormous courage, as you said, to go against that. So my question is there, perhaps in the work that Mr. Saoudi is doing, do you have, is there a model for invoking the family into this conversation? The mother, the father, the brothers, this is the whole unit, because it seems like in order to have the conversation be effective, all the women who are going to stand up, and men who face sexual harassment and possibly violation, in order for them to really feel fully supported, it seems like that's an element that is really complicated to address. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that. Thank you.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
So to answer Leila first, I think just having a conversation whenever you can is already a huge step. I find that you can always change people's minds, and it's never a waste of time. Even if you change one person's mind, it's already a victory. But there are also, I think it's important to also talk to people about the way they mention certain things, about how they talk about certain things, about how they talk about women, about the kind of sayings they can use, and to not give up on trying to change the language, on trying to call people out when they say something sexist, when they act in a way that is hurtful, and just not care how they feel about it. Just because you will hear things like, oh, like now it's a trend, everyone wants to be a feminist, and you're taking it too far. And even in France, let's say, you hear things like, oh, men cannot hit on women anymore, and you're taking away the right of men to flirt, and it's not about that. And you shouldn't be ashamed about having certain thoughts and about feeling strongly about something and just fighting for the way you feel about things. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's an attempt. I can let the other girls answer. Yeah.
going to take the privilege of the moderator, because Rita is my hero, and she knows that she's a hero because of the way that she did respond in just such a situation. So I wonder if we could get the mic to Rita. I'm sorry, Rehab, I know. Rehab is my hero.
Okay. Just to answer, add an addition to your question, or you said that you made a survey in your high school and you were very shocked in front of some answers and feedbacks. And basically, those feedbacks came from men. That's right. I think it's beyond men and boys. I think that boys are not the problem. They are not only the problem. Because we have men sitting here and defending women's rights. So I think the biggest problem is how women think of themselves, the image that they have of themselves. They think actually that they are supposed to stay at home, to raise just children, and to cook, and to do dishes and stuff. And I think if the woman, if she doesn't change the idea that she has of herself, nothing is gonna change. Nothing. So I guess that we should do more actions to make not only men but more women aware of this situation.
Rehab, would you tell them what you did in your school cafeteria situation quickly?
What was the situation?
Yeah.
Okay. So, 4 years ago, I was in front of my institution in Marrakesh. I was with a friend of mine, her name is Ifrane, and we were just waiting for our math teacher before heading up to class, when suddenly a random man came and pulled her hair aggressively in front of everyone. I wanted to take a step forward and to help her, but then I got stopped by some other friends because they told me that it's her brother. But I couldn't see her like in this situation because at some point he pushed her against a lot of motorcycles and she lost her consciousness. So I went to her. I tried to rescue her, but he tried to like stop me. But I showed him his limit like gently. But I was scared. But my determination was beyond my angst. So yeah, I tried to wake her up, and at some point she woke up. And when he saw that she woke up, he lifted her up, and he took her to a taxi, and he started beating her inside the taxi. And the thing is, I knew her for just some weeks, but other people, other friends of her, didn't do anything, like to save her. And we had some men, about 50, and I'm not like exaggerating. They were there, standing, doing nothing to change this situation. At some point, I didn't know what to do. Like, I lost my voice, and the only hope I had was just to try to talk to this man to do something. One of them told me, "But it's her brother. We cannot do anything." But then there was a boy. like 20s, he tried to talk to her brother, but in vain. He was so determined to finish what he started. After that, a miracle happened. My math teacher came, and she's a woman. And here we can see that the role that women can play to change their own situation. She told the taxi driver that if he drove, she would call the police because she had the number of the car. Yeah. So yeah, he didn't want to be a part of this drama, basically. And we took my friend to the institution. We started like giving her some water and stuff. Then we called the police. No, yes, we called the police, but before the police came, her dad came. He was watching his daughter laying on her back, and he started beating her too. Like, and at some point, he started aggressing me, not physically, but his words, basically. Yeah, girls are that and that and that, you know. Then her mom came, and I was so happy to see her mom because I knew her. When she saw her, she slapped her face 2 times. Her mom. And here again, we can see the role of the woman. After that, the police came. And they did something. Like, I just want to say that if you think that there is really no justice in Morocco, there are some few people who can help you. Like, if you fight enough, maybe you can reach what you are aiming for. So the policeman stopped her mother and took her to have a medical consultation and then to deposit a complaint against her brother. And then he never touched her again since then. So yeah.
How old were you?
I was 14.
I'd just like to finish answering, and then the girls can take over. That's a great anecdote you shared with us, and I don't think we said that there was never justice. That's not the idea. The idea is that we don't speak anecdotally, but we speak overall, and we speak based on statistics and trends, and what are the majority of cases and what's like for the vast majority of people. I also find that I'm not under the impression that we said that all men are perpetrators or all men are doing things that are wrong. That's not the idea. But I do find always interesting to try to defend a group that I don't think needs to be defended. In my opinion, I don't think men need us to defend them at this point. They're doing really well. I'm not worried for them. And that needs to be kept in mind when talking about Moroccan women, because even the men are going through a set of oppressions and lack of rights and so on. But at the same time, I think there is a universal aspect for women in the sense that throughout cultures and throughout countries, a woman's worth is still seen through not her professional successes or whatever she's done in her life, not just professionally, but that's fulfilling to her, that she chose, like whatever she chose that defines her happiness or whatever. Let's say a woman can have a PhD, she can win, I don't know, Oscars, she can win awards or do incredible things or invent an incredible medicine, but we will still evaluate her happiness or her worth by who she's married to or how many kids she has, and that's kind of universal, I think. And I think in Morocco it's just very similar to even the US or these places. But I do think in Morocco, one of the things that needs to be addressed is that women need to be comfortable in their nuclear families and around their closest ones to be able to talk and really voice what concerns them and really talks about themselves in a very honest and raw way, and that's still lacking. So I think it's hard to, when you can't even talk about your feelings or even talk about what's happening in your life and you have to go home and pretend that everything's fine, I think it's kind of hard. I think you will agree with me that a lot of people, your friends know you better than your parents, and that just makes it harder when you have to, to fight the system. Yeah.
But I guess what I'm wondering is there a kind of an aspect to the movement of educating people at the family unit level? Like, in other words, bringing the whole conversation throughout, not just to individual actors, you know what I'm saying? Like, in terms of, I don't know if it means focus groups or what, I don't know what it means, to be honest.
I think, as Soufiane said earlier, the media and the way we talk about women, even in commercials. I know that recently I saw a commercial where the man was cleaning the floor and it almost made me cry. I was so excited about that representation of gender in the Moroccan TV networks. And I know, for example, I saw Leila and Maria with Khadija's dad and how they were explaining to him things and explaining that he needed to stand by his daughter and not with his neighbors, and that kind of, they talked to him for hours. I saw them sitting with that man for hours and helping him feel strong and feel complete solidarity with his daughter, which of course is important because he's going through, I mean, he wasn't a victim of rape, but he's going through the shame of all his neighbors saying that he ruined their lives and his daughter ruined their lives, and he has to deal with that on a daily basis. And I saw Leila and Maria really talking him into not feeling any shame and understanding that the neighbors should be ashamed, not him. And that was really important. And they can talk about it themselves.
Yeah, it's very important to talk about the family because in Khadija's case, as an example, the whole family is today a victim. You have Khadija, of course, she's a rape victim, but the whole family is affected by what happened to Khadija. We were just talking to them a few days ago, and we are in a permanent contact with them. Today, they don't go out. The mother is completely scared about her little brother going to school and coming back. The father do not go out. Khadija do not go out. The mother don't go out. They are just there, sitting and waiting for the court process to happen. So with an NGO, we are now trying to help them move from the city. It is also a very complicated process because they are not the one who have to move, actually. But it's like that. It's better to go to another city where they are known and without all this noise around them than to stay there and to fight for what, actually. So yeah, when this happened, you have, of course, the women who have been raped, the victim who's the main victim, but it has an impact on the whole family. And it's super important to keep this family united. For Khadija's case, the fact that they all live in this house without going out, creates a tension within this family you can't imagine. So it's very important for them to just talk about it. And we see also our role as going, see them from time to time, just get some news, let the father talk about his own trauma, because for him it's a trauma. He was in charge of protecting the whole family, and he ended up being in charge of the situation. So yes, it's a trauma for all of them. But it's not because it will be a trauma for the whole family that that we have to stay quiet about it. It is also something a lot of women are just scared about talking about what happened to them because they think about the impact. Just after the first Masaktesh campaign, I received this Facebook messages from a young woman I didn't know. She just saw the video and just contacted me. She told me about a rape she had been through. Actually, it was in high school. She lives in Rabat. It was in high school. She went to a party, drank a little bit too much, and ended up with her boyfriend. So she was with her boyfriend. It was okay, and then she completely lost memory. The day after, she didn't remember it, and it was okay. In her mind, it was okay. But she noticed a guy being particularly aggressive toward her. And one day, after it was a friend actually of her who changed, it turned out, completely turned his behavior. And one day he told her, because she had some issues with this guy's girlfriend or whatever, he said, okay, I'm gonna stop being rude with my girlfriend, otherwise I will share videos. She said, which videos? And when she was completely drunk, this guy he raped her. She was completely unconscious, and took videos of that, and he had that. And he was proud of okay, you're gonna stop, we're gonna share videos. So she told me that it was the day she discovered this. She didn't want to talk to anyone, of course, so she decided to talk to this stranger. Of course, I won't say her name, nothing, so she decided to talk to me just by internet. I spent the whole night trying to understand and to chat with her, to try to understand what happened. And she said, I was the strong lady, I was the strong woman, and now I can't realize that I'm the victim. How can I be like this strong woman telling all my friends, you have to report, you have to say that, and now I end up being in this situation where I can't report. I won't tell my father because he will first blame me for what were you doing at that party? Why did you drink? Why and why and why? And I don't want him, and also that was something that she said, I don't want him to look at me with a different eye. So the way things and this relationship and this kind of reports can affect a family has a link, it's a very tiny link with this decision to report or not to report. Today, this woman decided not to report. And of course it's her choice, we respect that. We're not here to influence her towards one decision or another, but we're here to listen. And now she knows that if she wants to talk about it, she has someone to talk about it. She has time, and it can take time for her to do it, but at least she can talk about it. And I think that's similar to what you're doing here, and it's super important. It's super important to hear that, to respect the choice of reporting, not reporting, and also to raise some awareness about the fact that actually I can understand. I had a particular relationship with my father. He was looking at me with I was a kid, and I will always be his little girl. And I can imagine how complicated it is for a woman to talk about that to her father. But their first role is to protect us. And this is something that we need to have in mind. They are here to protect us, they are our parents, and they are here to stand by our side, whatever happens. So the way they will look at you is important, but it's not the main thing. And I want to answer to Leila's question, even Leila left, and because I think that was a great question. How can we change? I think we can change by educating ourselves first. And today we have a lot of tools to do that. We can join some groups on Facebook, we can join some groups we can visit some blogs and educate ourselves, because we're not fighting men against women, we are fighting against ideas. And these ideas are spread by men and women. And I don't really like when we blame women for not being feminist or not standing for, and not fighting this. They are part of this this education we all received. We all have the same patriarchal heritage, so, and we have to deal with it. So first thing is first educate ourselves. Yesterday we had I love relate with Aida because I'm continuing this process of educating myself. There was this Twitter guy who was up for our whistle action. He shared our tweet and said, "Okay, that's great, girls. I'm supporting you." What did he say? He said something like,
"But be careful, don't overuse it.
Yeah,
use it wisely."
Yeah, be careful, don't overuse it. So I was like, okay, that's nice. So I liked the comment and I retweeted it. And I said, okay, stop mansplaining. We know how to use that. We don't need you to tell us how to use these things. And I realized that, yes, she's right. Actually, we're still having these ideas that, okay, he's nice, okay, I'm gonna like and share, but actually she is right. So we are still in this process of educating ourselves and identifying what is right and what is wrong, what they are allowed to tell us and what they're not allowed to tell us. And it's a long process. I think it's what we call a deconstruction, because it's here, it has been here for a long time, and it will take us a long time to just destroy all this, but together we can do it.